What's going on, guys? Roster Mania has begun, and we need to talk about the Comm situation. Yesterday, he announced that he is no longer with V1, and everyone's like, okay, so, First Killer's coming over. First Killer's announced free agent as well. A lot of roster moves going on, or a lot of roster talk. But let's focus in on Comm here, where a lot of people thought that meant he was kicked from V1, from Daniel and Beastmode, but that was not exactly the case. Comm went back on Twitter after his tweet and posted this. To restate, I was not kicked, nor did I leave. My contract expired. There's a lot still up in the air and things I can't really mention, but this video is my goodbye to version 1 and to say that I will no longer be playing under their banner. So, it basically is trying to say that V1 very likely will be no more soon, is what it sounds like. Because there's been a lot of rumors going on. I'm not sure exactly where they started, but where V1 was trying to look to merge with some other org. I think the front runner was G2. So that is a possibility. And I think now it's more of a possibility that that happens with Comm saying, hey, I'm not technically kicked from the team. I'm just no longer with version 1. Obviously, if version 1 was going to stay around, they would re-sign Comm. So they were a 3-man squad. Sorry, my eyes itchy. So it leads to believe that this version 1 merge, or maybe even just dropping the esport altogether, is very likely to happen. I think the one thing that is for certain out of all of this is that version 1, as an org, will probably not be in the Rocket League scene. Will they be merged with like a G2 or someone else? Will they get bought out? Whatever you want to call it. Or will they just leave the scene? Any of those are a possibility, but I do believe that we will no longer see version 1 in the Rocket League space. Things could change, but as of right now, everything points towards that. Now, we want to do one other thing. We'll talk about Beastmode, who also re-clarified this on the Chalkcast last night as well. So let's head on over there.
For cutting you off, but I do want to clarify something really quick. I think a lot of people are getting it misunderstood that we kick Comm or Comm is left. There's a lot of things happening with V1 that I can't really say, but we didn't kick him, and nor did he leave. So I just kind of want to get that out there because he and I think there's a good chance that we will stay as a team.
All right. No one wants to hear Johnny Boy talk. So that's a good thing. Or Beast Mode is likely saying that they will likely stay together as a team. So everything points to V1 is gone, right? And we'll see how that plays a factor into their talks. Like, if there is a merger with G2, what exactly happens, right? Does G2 then drop a JNAPS in Chicago, and who knows, maybe get a Beast Mode Daniel Atomic? Does G2 sign Comm? I'm not sure exactly what would happen there, because they would only be allowed one team in the Rocket League space, right? So that would be a little bit awkward if that G2 merger did happen. My guess would be, I think version 1, right now, they're trying to keep Beast Mode and Daniel under contract. I'm not sure exactly how long their contracts are. It's always hard to figure this out. But Daniel, he just joined them. So you would expect his contract to be a little bit longer. But a lot of the value probably for V1 in terms of being bought out are those buyouts on those players, on a Beast Mode and Daniel, especially after what they just did at Gamers 8. Those buyouts are probably pretty big. And instead of buying out those players, just buy out the entire org, right? So I think V1 wants to hold on to their assets as best they can. Comm, obviously, his contract was going to be up anyway. No one knows if, they even tried to re-sign him at all just to, add to that buyout. So we don't really know anything about that. But they did know that they agreed upon this before Gamers 8, that Comm would no longer be with version 1, not the team necessarily, after Gamers 8. So, a lot going on right now. I think version 1, again, we will not see them in the Rocket League space. The one thing I disagree with is Beast Mode saying they are likely going to be playing with Comm. If I had to guess, and I'm not saying he's a liar, but most pros are anyway. They're going to, do their PR whatever. Like if I had to guess, whenever we start this next season, I would expect it to be Beast Mode, Daniel, and someone else. I don't expect it to be Comm. I could be wrong, but I think version 1 was a borderline top 5 team. They have potential, obviously. But if everyone is going to upgrade around them, then I would worry that if they don't upgrade, they could fall further and further back, right? A lot of people saying, first killer, free agent, he could go there. Like I think a lot of people immediately are saying first killer is either going to Gen G or V1 because those are the 2 announced drops, basically. Which even though Comm is like a half drop, I guess, because he's not technically dropped. But also Nolly is off Gen G. So people are like, oh, then he's going there because these are the 3 announced. One thing I would say is very likely, I would assume, a lot of org contracts would probably be up at the end of August based on how the RLCS works. You would think orgs would sign players based on that, but I'm not sure. Maybe they haven't. So we might see a lot more news in about 2 days' time to see exactly how many more people are being dropped or kicked or whatever. So we'll see how that all plays out. But one thing I will say is very, very likely, I think, pretty much every single team is going to make a move. We talked about this in a previous video where I said every North American team has to make a move. It looks like it's probably going to happen that way. The only teams I could see staying together are probably like a Vitality, obviously. But even them, I could see there being a move. And probably like a space station, I could see them staying together. Like I said in my other video, I would still like to see a move for space station for them to improve. But those are the 2 teams where I'm like, all right, maybe not. And maybe some of the minor region teams, but like I don't know them as well, or like, so I'm going to stick with NA and EU for this conversation. But I think pretty much everyone's making moves. And when you make moves, you're trying to upgrade. You're trying to build a better team. If you don't make moves and everyone else is around you, generally your team will get worse. That's just the way it is. Look at G2 this year. They stayed together. They got worse. Maybe it was them. Maybe it was because everyone improved around them. Maybe it was just because of imports. Who knows? But generally, that is the case in Rocket League. So we'll see how this all plays out. But as of now, Comm is not with V1, but he's not kicked from the team. Daniel and Beastmode are still signed with V1 for the time being, but we'll see what happens with the org. And honestly, that's probably like the least exciting news, right? Like I don't really care about the org stuff of like buyouts and all that. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like make your money, orgs. I don't really care about them. I care about the players, right? So we'll see how this all works out. But as of now, Nolly's off Gen G. First Killer's contract with FaZe has ended, and we kind of saw what happened with FaZe, so that thing's imploding. I assume all 3 go their own ways. And that's really all we know so far for at least the NA side. So we'll see how it all plays out. I expect a lot more news. Maybe it'll happen September 1st. Maybe it'll happen later. I'm not really sure. But expect more Roster Mania news to be coming down the pipeline. And we'll see. Do you think Comm is going to be playing with Daniel and Beastmode whenever we start this new season? Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all of that stuff. And we'll see you on Friday for another probably Roster Mania video.